Okay, starting the final turn. Strangely enough, everybody drew a barbarian they were happy with. Other than the Saxons and the Alani, everything looks pretty good. The Alani and Saxons go early, though. The others are very large powers. So everything kind of had a nice advantage. The only exception is maybe the Vandals. These guys may have taken them as a mistake. I think they thought they were getting the Goths. Again, it's the difference in the size of the two charts. In this case, that confused my poor little brain. Went a lot differently for Emperors, though. Blue got first pick, and they drew something horrible. They drew Flavius Honorius, which they threw over on green. Green has almost no presence on the board, a couple of pieces here, and Flavius has no advantages, goes early. That's kind of crappy if you don't have much on the board. The next pick was red. Red did not get a good one. I think they got Romulus Augustulus, or Augustus. No, they got Magnus Maximus, who isn't bad, with a +1 attack, and with my position on the board, he looks okay. But here's the thing. He who goes last has the last shot to get Rome out of the Emperors, and is probably pretty much guaranteed it if he has cards, etc., that'll help him. Now, in Red's case, he does not have cards that'll help him, but he's hoping that, well, one thing, maybe he won't lose Rome, but that's unlikely. But if he does lose Rome, and Thrace for that matter, which he can upgrade and get to 2 dice. Basically, you want to upgrade the cities that you're sitting on at the end, because you get the looting value of them at the end of the game, so that's pretty awesome. You also get what? Let me find the end of game stuff. You get 2 points for every province that you own, which obviously it's not worth just taking a province for that, but if you get an expansion that gives you more victory points, you could end up earning some additional victory points just based on that 2 points per province. That's like having the +1 per province for every leader, but you have to make it to the end of the game with it. So the last Emperor has this big advantage, and I think that's a huge thing, and that's why he went why he didn't go with Magnus Maximus. Of course, I've only played this once long ago, so one can't be sure, and you could get crappy die rolls at the end. Red is certainly sacrificing what's a pretty strong position that they can score right away by not taking that piece. The next is yellow. Yellow, I believe, got Augustus as his pick, which he handed off to red, because it was either you or me, dude. And then I guess green got the final pick and had to hand that, which is Nepos, who comes in a late position with a bonus, but not last isn't good enough. So in a sense, Augustus may be the best choice there, except he comes without any bonuses, so it's going to cost him more to take each province. Not too surprisingly, I ended up screwing up with Green's play. They took their Alani and swept into Dacia and then went into Dalmatia. That may be cool because they're trying to take away from yellow in both cases, but the problem is I didn't realize, again, the same things, that I had more than dominance over here in Scythia, that I was one space away from getting control, and Scythia's would have been easier to attack than this. This isn't really worth anything except taking point. I mean, it was worth 3 points instead of 3 points, but this would be easier by far to take. So that was kind of a mistake. Still, I managed to pump a good deal of points there. I'm probably 3 points less than I should be. One thing about this game, which I just thought of with its kind of end of turn die rolling, that reminds me of the newer version, the Avalon Hills 2nd edition plastic pieces monstrosity of History of the World, that I thought was kind of cool, which was you get these discs at the end of the game, that are kind of secret, and they have a secret number of victory points on them. And you get to look, so you know how well you're doing, and you could predict somewhat, what other people have, especially if you have a lot of the discs. You pretty much know the distribution. But there's a certain amount of randomness generally at the end of the game when people flip over those discs, where they don't know for sure what their opponents are sitting on. Usually all the victory point discs aren't assigned, and no one person really knows very many of them. And like that, I think we're going to see that kind of variable aspect at the end of the game here. The difference, of course, being you have a significant amount of a chance to grab all of the victory point spaces if you're the last emperor or the last couple emperors. Certainly the last one's got a good chance of grabbing almost all of those variable spaces. They may not be the best way to get points, though. Remember, each area is worth 2. Well, yeah, but this is worth 2 plus 2 dice, so yeah. So there's a lot of points there to be got at the end. Now, blue's in an interesting position. Going early in this turn with Magnus Maximus, +1 attack capability. Maybe it's worth doing something? Yeah, I don't think so. I've got the Fortify card. I threw a couple of forts down. I'm going to get a city in one of these two. Because I have no cities, and I have both of those. But here's the thing. Whatever I conquer, I'm far enough ahead, people will probably target me and take it away from me. So I'm probably not going to be able to score anything particularly valuable and keep it. I'd rather let other people squabble over what they have. So I'm just going to drop this in over here, Proconsularis, because that's a little further from enemy territories. And I guess I score my 2 points for my city. And then I have 2 territories that I completely own. I could have expanded into some place, but all of those have a risk and don't really bring me much more in the way of points, even if I survive. So I'm going for a minimalist approach here, counting on my barbarians to win me the game, I guess, because I've got a large deficit between me and the higher Romans. And then I get dominance of Africa, which is worth 6, and dominance of Hispania, which brings me up to 10 points. Sucks that Hispania has been weakened. I could have pulled out of fortified areas. That might have been a good move. If I fortify these, then I could abandon them and leave them as Roman territories for other people to grab. But I would rather kind of be in the less valuable areas in a sense, because I'm going to get 2 points per area if nobody thinks that they're worth going after. So I'll take my quick 10 points, and that'll punch it on to the Goths. Now the Goths are token 3, which is me. Cool. Clearly that didn't work. I used a plague to clear my way into Cisalpina. It gave me a 50-50 chance of just clearing the space, which it did. Marched into there, and then spent the rest of my pieces attacking Rome. I managed to get rid of the legion that was there. This may be the worst of all possible situations. So now Rome's open, and whoever's the next Roman emperor, and I should have a marker for that. We had one. I think we're going to be on Honorius, I guess. Can just sail in here and take Rome at no cost, and all the advantages. I was hoping to sack Rome, get the 2 big dice there, and then see where I wanted to go from there, possibly into Dalmatia, get control over here, and that would put me in a position where maybe I could attack somewhere else. But I just didn't have the die rolls and the number of pieces, really, with the Goths to be able to do that attack. And I didn't gain a lot of points. There aren't a lot of blue pieces lying around on the board anymore for barbarians, so I ended up only at 112, which puts me clearly behind green. Green has taken their barbarians already, but they have not taken their Romans, and they're ahead of me in both. So it's pretty certain that blue is not going to beat green there. Oops. And that gives us the number 2 over here. which will be Flavius Honorius. He wasn't willing to sit on his laurels. That's not where they belong anyway. He had a leader card. People tend to hold a good card till the end. So for the outstanding Roman Emperor Flavius Honorius, and this is definitely a problem, is that there's going to be a tendency for good cards for the Romans to be played right at the end because of the backloading of the points there. Depending on how much of the empire is destroyed, but if there are valuable cities still available, because you can only rebuild the city at the beginning of the turn, basically. If there are valuable cities out there, it's worth going into them. So he obviously bought a bunch of pieces, actually, because of that card, which could have gotten him in trouble. It didn't really. He took here, swept up through here, kind of wanted to go in here, but failed. And that cut his desirable path, which was to run through here. He no longer had the pieces for that once he lost a piece. So he ended up going into Baetica and taking a city there too. And those cities are important. He's sitting on a lot of valuable cities right now. One, this doesn't count, but two, three of them. So 4 dice at the end of the game plus whatever he holds, if he's not stopped first. Speaking of stopping, we're looking at the Vandals, which is player 4 over here. Okay, and the Vandals swept down here. Basically, their view was, hey, I'm yellow. Green looks like my big competition right now. Green's clearly ahead of blue. I think I'm ahead of blue. So sweeping through some green spaces, trying to get Pontus, where I could have also gotten a looting. Didn't quite make it that far. Number of dead pieces here. I didn't think I had a card for it. I have a weaponry card, which probably I should have used, because my Emperor is Nepos here, who's going to have a +1 attack. But here's the thing. I can get into lots of places, and if red knocks me out, hey, that's terrible. I'll probably have scored enough Roman points to get me past green. That's what I'm hoping, right? So that even if red makes a game of it, at least I'll be in competition with green. As it stands, I'm 1 short of them on the barbarian track, so I've got to make up some ground here on the Roman track, and that is 1924. I need 25 points on the Roman track, either now or later. And right now, the next Emperor is coming up with me, and I'm going to have this combat card, so I'm going to be able to capture some things. It's definitely key for me to try to destroy green. I think red's going to go all out, but to destroy green's holdings as much as possible. And let's see. That means I've got these areas. I don't think I really want to pull out of Syria. That's worth points. So I'll probably be building stuff to throw it into Pontus, Rome, Cappadocia if need be, but I'm less interested in that, and Baetica, and really try to wipe the green pieces off the map. But I may buy more pieces in hopes of getting more score. These weren't bad. Problem is the numbers were against me. Wiping out all of green, I'm hoping red can't knock me all out. Because I'm a good, 9 points below green at this point. Which means I need to hold some of my key locations and get that looting value as well as territorial values added to me. I swept into Pontus, Baetica, Rome. Rome was my first attack, obviously, and tried to go into Cappadocia from Syria, where I had a bonus. Couldn't get in there. Good number of points, but I spent a decent amount, and I didn't make all that much more. I probably would have been, this is one of those cases where what I bought with all those extra pieces is the shot at getting more points at the end of the game. And we're pretty close there. We're on the Huns now. And basically red gets 2 actions in a row. And their cards are People's Revenge. Yeah, that's not going to help them one bit. Because they get as many Huns as they need, and their people, you know, unless they wipe their own people out, they're not going to, or hurt their own people, they're not going to be in any kind of situation there. Basically, only if they stomp on their own people do they kill any, and, well, they're not going to have a chance to use those people to try to grow anywhere. They don't have to worry about anybody else attacking them. So that was a wasted card to have at the end of the game, basically. That did not go terribly well. I had a whole horde of Huns, pulled them out of home areas, etc., launched from Armenia with the intention of destroying Cappadocia first, working into Syria, and getting to wreck some cities. So I wouldn't have to use my Imperial Roman points to try to do that, to get the big die roll for pillaging. Well, I didn't get into Syria, but I got so that I can go take it easily. But that's about as far as I got. I failed, lost the entire pile. Wish I had saved these guys and pulled them out, because had I taken Syria, I could have spread into there. Maybe. But at least I could have taken this guy out who didn't do me any good at all. Which he probably wouldn't be doing me any good unless I went into Mesopotamia and killed my own Romans. So, my score for my barbarians puts me down with Green's Romans at 105, which is pretty obvious. I'm not going to make the amount of points at the with my end turn Romans here, which is going to be Augustus, but here's the Romulus Augustus. But here's the thing. Green ain't getting much in the way of points. They got 2 points coming at the end of the game. Whereas whatever I take, I'm going to get lots of looting points, presumably. I've already got a fair amount of territory here. I can buy these back up at a point each, and that gets me a die roll, so that's an average of 2.5 each. There's 5 points I gained for nothing. Plus 2 points per territory. So I'm going to be buying big and going as big as I can and hoping that Romulus Augustus rolls well, basically, and can take things. One of the things he has to definitely do is he has to wipe out Yellow's pieces, though, and that's going to be tough. Yellow's got fortresses almost everywhere. Baetica does not. So, you know, I mean, I'm going to take my crapshoot. I'm so far down. If I get really, really lucky, maybe I can win. Nowhere near, and probably no chance because of that. Well, I've surpassed blue here by quite a bit, which is at least one thing. So I won't be in last place, which looked like the likely position red would be in. Well, we don't know. We've still got some dice to throw. But managed to get Rome, but I lost a couple of pieces. Took my piece out of Judea and moved it into Syria. I can abandon this because it's a fort, but I couldn't abandon the stuff up here to try to get more valuable territories. So now, let's count up 2 points per Roman legion, and we'll start with green because they're in the lead. They get up there. Yellow, well, not per legion, per territory. 1, 2, 3. Looks like they're just getting, 4. They're getting 8. Puts them up here. 2. Sorry. 2 there. I'm going to need a red die for that. And then I'm going to need another yellow die when I add the 8. Okay. 18 points for red, which is huge. And then blue has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could have only lost 1. That's a dozen, which puts him up to 80. Looking bad for blue, no question. All right. Well, let's continue the race. It might actually make sense for me to go with the guy in the back first, just because of this. So he's got 1. Looks like just 1 die. He's not going to gain anything. He gets 1 extra point. Ooh. Red's next. Let's see if he passes anyone. 2. 1, 2, 3 dice. 4 dice, 5 dice, 6 dice, 7 dice. Some of these I paid for. 7 dice, huh? I have only 6 available to me. 7 dice, 8, 12, 13. 23, 25 more points. Well, he's temporarily in the lead. Might be enough, right? His barbarians, I mean, his barbarians are in a comparable level with other people's Romans, and he's ahead of their barbarians. So I think he's got the lead right now. So that was red. The next Roman is yellow, though. And if he can get some good die rolls, he's got 3 dice, which is pretty good. Ooh, nice roll. 14 and 4 puts him up to 18. All right. And now green, who was the biggest of all, gets no additional dice. So now we can just count how many points we have. And so Rome has 193. We're going to just mark that like, I'm sorry, blue, not Rome. 193 together. We'll mark that way. Okay. So here we're at 236. Seven and 9 says 226. And 5 and 25 says 230. So yellow eked out a victory there by holding on to enough of his stuff. And it really came down to what red could hit of what yellow took. And it all came down to this last turn thing. Now, obviously, look, blue, however well, whatever position they were in, was probably too far behind to score enough on a last turn gambit. Hard to tell, though. Because part of why they're so far behind was because they held off. So they didn't want to spend their points that they wouldn't be able to make anything off of on that final turn. So a lot of it just has to do with, hey, where do you get your placement on that final Roman emperor position? And I think some of that's luck, there's no question. But very, very little of it is long-term strategy to build up your position throughout the game. What it really comes down to is probably a moderate-term strategy to try to arrange that either your total victory points are lower than everyone else's if you're playing by the rules, or that your Roman victory points are lower than everyone else's. It's too important a thing. As long as you can stay close to the pack and have the last play, I think you can score huge. We saw red, pulled into second place, basically on the strength of having that last pick. And had they had more pieces available, they'd be in first place because they would have been able to attack more areas. As it was, they couldn't take yellow out, who was the second to last Roman. And that is a big flaw to this game as a game. What is it other than a game? It's not any kind of real historical analysis. So I think what we've got here, and I'll come back in the review and talk more about it, is a flawed game that is no simulation and really doesn't serve much purpose anywhere. When you add the fact that the components kind of suck, and the rules are poorly written, and there's really nothing going for this. Nothing at all. Except maybe can you fix it? Now, my first play, I actually was kind of impressed because it fixed some issues that I had with History of the World in terms of not feeling at all historical. But I gotta tell you, there's not enough history here to make up for the flaws in the game itself. And I can't recommend this one at all unless you want to do some major fixing and throw yourself some some lacquer on top of those counters so that they don't smear all over the place. That's just beautiful, right?